Sorry, my phone rang. But yeah, like it might seem counterintuitive, but it forces like who is watching it to develop the ability, like give a clear, constructive feedback. Which is obviously vital in leadership skill. Um, it's not just about physical skill; it helps when you grow socially, I guess. Like I wrote down as like improving communication and observation and empathy. I definitely underestimated how, like, I guess, valuable structured peer feedback could be because, like, I thought players, some players don't take each other seriously, especially when it's someone you have fun with on a daily basis. But, like, the right space and right criteria and guidance from the coach, it definitely is a powerful tool. And I'll definitely consider, like, using it a small group or like if I ever coach like or people that I train sometimes like specifically for me if you're recovering from an injury like you can't physically participate but mentally you can be engaged with that. And then there's self-check style coaching. That's one of the most like interesting to me, I say, because it uh, definitely emphasizes guided reflection and independence. Like the quote I saw with the text that said like heightened self awareness may help athletes, counter negative effects of performance measure pressure. Definitely agree with that because athletes who like can assess and adjust on their own are more resilient in the competition. I also appreciated the statement, when coach they said the coach must resist the temptation to direct and tell because it's tougher. A lot of us who like just want to jump and fix things immediately when some people just don't work on that. Like the emphasis on like using tools or like video analysis and self-rating checklists, like some people don't like think how useful it would be, but technical sports, specifically feedback sports, like for mine, like baseball, like having a hitter review, their own swing on a live session is the greatest thing ever because like you can identify like went well, like hey, like recording like hey, this is what went well, that hit was good, this is that accountability is built, and then just kind of get a self like recognition of what you can do. Um, Definitely want to include that in my coaching because like in the future, like athletes who are transitioning to higher levels, like they building a habit of self assessment makes you better in the next level because you get to a grown man stage where you can't just like someone's not going to tell you every 5 minutes like hey do this do this do this do this like sometimes it's not going to work like that. So um, definitely want to include that in my coaching because like athletes who are transitioning to higher levels like like it makes it better. So then you got inclusion style coaching. Like inclusion style coaching. Focus on the multiple entry points. Athletes can find an appropriate challenge level. The metaphor used in the chapter, like slanting a rope, so each athlete can find their jumping height. Like it visually made like it clear how important it is to match a challenge to an ability. Another quote I saw was the coach doesn't dictate the appropriate level, but guides players through questioning. Very much agree with that one because it's an approach that supports athlete autonomy and builds decision making skills. But I didn't realize before it was like the style only helps like struggling athletes, but also challenges more advanced ones. For example, like the baseball example, where players choose between like tee work and I think it was announcing pitches or live hitting. Each player gets to work at their level while still being pushed. Made me reflect specifically being a baseball player who's also trying to heal from an injury that I had 18 months ago. Also made me reflect on how often athletes give up when tasks are too hard or coast when they're too easy. Like for example, like when I was like a player that was not healthy, I was successful. I was better than a lot of people. I'm not calling anyone bad. It's just, I would coast a lot. Like, and I would own up to that. I would just take my time, like, not trying with a lot of stuff. But then it made me realize, like, like it was too easy, so I just would coast, and I would suffer from that. But then when I'm injured and I'm trying my best, I'm like, man, like it's too hard. Like I'm trying. Like it's like so like it makes me like can like that make me being in those two like type of like I guess places like it's like dang like it made me realize a lot of what I've I guess been missing and like how I've been so like myopic from certain things. Um Definitely influenced my coaching philosophy in a big way because like I definitely want to start building drills. I kind of take coaching like not as serious because it just make money, but I form bonds with kids and it kind of wants to be a thing that I want to do in the future, but never really sure because sometimes like it might be better that you have a 20-some-year-old coach that's like giving you advice, but it may not be at the same time. I want to build like challenge tiers and teach athletes that I've coached with to like select the right one for the development. It's not about meeting players where they are. It's about helping them grow that point, move forward, because they're there to further help. Like, I know the kids I coach, like, it's a young age, so like it's a great way to like start them like young and just get them acclimated to certain things. But it's not the best way to just push and expect them to be like the greatest players ever. I say lastly, reading and reflecting on these coaching styles definitely expanded my understanding, like what it means to be an effective coach. Like your style, command, task, reciprocal self-check, inclusion, has been like strength in ideal context. What I've learned is definitely like great coaches aren't like locked into one method. They use the right tool at the right time based on the situation, and what their athlete needs. Like not everybody athletes works the same. And I think the problem, especially like with the command style, like they think like that old school thinks that, everybody works the same. We all got to do this. Y'all got to do this, A, B, and C, black and white. It's just like some people are different. And there's injuries. Like, I personally have come to the value of balance between structure and autonomy, because I definitely want to be more intentional about giving players ownership over their learning. Like, especially like whether it's through like peer feedback, self-assessment, or individualized challenge points, I definitely want to coach in a way in the future that not only builds skill, but also fosters confidence, resilience, and leadership. I just think that, certain ways, like, as players, like when especially when you're a player that coaches, it kind of just gives you like, self like realizations like, dang, like I definitely can be like a better like player sometimes because, I remember seeing like it said like inclusion style in tennis was like rally like the pros, like those effective coaches like tailor content, and instruction to match specific learning and readiness and interest in. Like players face a challenge. Like I remember the quote said like how might you conduct a consistent rally with your partner, but with multiple entry points based on like individual ability. Like the coach is giving you several challenge point modifications. Might choose to allow the ball to bounce once or twice before returning. Like might first like tap the ball, like show him making a shot. Like basically the coach is observing and challenges and engages players in conversation about their selection. Making you like you're refining your decision making process. So like you're thinking that like basically helps you like in the future. So like you're making the right decision the way a pro would instead of just like an amateur would or someone that's just not as well toned in their skills. So I definitely appreciated like reading about this. It was kind of obviously harder like talking about myself, but reading through that and then going back to chapter 1 through 2, like I definitely got a lot more an understanding of like why like a lot of this is important. So I will be uploading 2 videos.